Hi, everyone. In this example, I want to show you different ways of using data validation. So we will be working on some basic, some intermediate, and some advanced examples as well. As you can see, I have created a bunch of different problems and we'll tackle it one by one. First, let's look at the first problem that we have. We want to provide a remark of at least 10 characters, and that is the employee feedback. So the situation is that the HR has expected all employees to fill up feedback for their reportees, but we want the remark to be at least 10 characters. So we don't want somebody to simply write good or bad or excellent like that. Now, right now, if I say good, it doesn't really stop me from writing something which only has 4 characters in it. So what we want to do is to go to data, then we go to data validation, and we have this pop-up box that opens up. In this, right now, the default is selected to any value, but we don't want that, right? So we will keep a text length, and we will say minimum is 10, and press OK. Now it does require a maximum as well. So let me just keep 100 as a placeholder. And now you notice that if I only write good, it says that this value does not match the data validation restrictions defined for the cell. A slightly better user experience that you can create is by also telling the user in advance that it has to be 10 characters. Sure, you can put it here as well, at least 10 characters, but a better way to do that would be to do it in a more subtle manner. For example, if I go to data validation, right now we have selected text length. Here we can also say greater than or equal to 10, that is better. And in the input message, we will say that please note, but do not give a single word answer, remark should be at least 10 characters. Let us see how it looks now. So if you notice, the moment the user clicks on the cell, there is this prompt that comes. It's very subtle. The prompt will only come when you select the cell. One more time, let me go to the error alert after selecting data validation. And this time we will also change the type of error. So we will not make it a stop. I think that looks really bold and a little scary. So we will keep it as a warning or an information. So in the information, we can say, please check length. And we will now write should be at least 10 characters. So now you notice that if I write good, it says should be at least 10 characters. And it's a little better looking than that warning sign that was coming before. Let me also make sure that the H is not capped. Much better. One more tip I would like to give you is that if you would like to copy this validation into other cells, you can simply do a Control-C and then do a Control-V. Or one more way of doing that, in case you don't want to overwrite the value, is to do a Control-C, go to any other cell, and then go to Paste Special. The shortcut for Paste Special is Control-Alt-V. And here you can select validation. This means that the existing color and the format and the value in that cell will not go away. Only the validation will be applied. Now imagine you have a bunch of cells and you want to identify how many of these cells have a validation already applied on it. To do that, we can just select the entire range. Then I will press Ctrl+G for go to. So when we press Ctrl-G, we get a box like this, and I can select special, and select data validation. And now you notice it automatically highlights the cell that has a validation in it. There is also another option called same, which is useful if you want to identify cells that have the same data validation. In case you want to remove the validation for some reason, you can simply go to the data validation and then in settings, click on clear all and press OK. That would be the correct way of removing data validations. Let's do one more example now that we have seen the basics. We want to provide a remark of at least 5 words. This is quite interesting. How do you know that there is a certain number of words in a remark? Let me show you an example in some other place. So I'm writing 5 words here. So we will find the length of the entire text string. And we will also substitute all the spaces with a blank. And we will find the length one more time. So what is it doing right now? It's giving me a difference of 4. And the reason is because there are 4 spaces that I have converted into a blank. So finally, what we will have to do is to combine the 2 formulas together and then do a +1. The reason for the +1 is that because if there is only 1 space, that means there are 2 words. So if there are 4 spaces, that means there are 5 words. And there you go. This tells us the number of words that are there in that remark. Okay. So I am going to copy the entire thing and we will apply a data validation here. This time we will go to custom and we will write this formula. Of course, we'll have to change the cell reference. Now my cell becomes B10, not H10. So we select B10 and B10 here, right? And we also want to check if the value is at least 5, that means greater than or equal to 5. So we will say that this entire value has to be greater than or equal to 5. Let us see how it works now. If I simply write hello, doesn't work. If I say hello, how are you doing? It works. If even one word is less, you get an error. I'm not changing the error prompt. We already know how to do that from the previous example, but I hope you get the idea of how to write formulas inside data validation. I'm pasting the formula here as well, in case you want to have a look at it. And here we go. That's the formula, everyone. The next example that we want to do is to find out the target for the current year. So in the previous year, if I've done 10, then I'm expecting to grow at least by 20% this year. That means in the current year, I should have done at least 1.2. It cannot be 1.18, it cannot be 1.19 as well. How do we do that? Once again, let's go to data validation. And let me write this from scratch. Okay, so we will say that the value in C16, which is the number that we are going to input, has to be greater than or equal to 1.2 multiplied by the value in B16. So what will happen is that 1.2 into B16 will be 12. And we want to make sure that the value we're inserting is at least 12. It can be more than that, but at least 12. So if I put in 11.8, it doesn't work. If I put 12 or if I put in 14, works perfectly. Let me write the formula here as well. There we go. Let's also make sure that the date has to be within 7 days from today. So we go to data validation one more time. Now we do have an option for a date where we say start date and end date, right? Now it is saying between start date and end date. Now, if I put in the start date as today, and if I put the end date as today plus 7, let's see what happens. If I put in today, it works. If I put in the 30th of May, that works as well. If I put in the 6th of June, it gives me an error. So one more time, in data validation, we said the start date is today and the end date is today plus 7. Another example on the dates. So we want to only allow weekdays. Very interesting problem. For example, if I look at today, 27th of May, 2022, how do I know if this is a weekend or a weekday? So if I put in the function and I say weekday, comma 1. 1 means that Monday is a 1, Tuesday is a 2, and Saturday and Sunday are 6 and 7. So it tells me that we are currently on 5, today being a Friday. So this number we can use for further analysis. Now we can say that if the number is less than 6, then my result is a weekday. Otherwise, it is a weekend. So if you notice, when I select the 28th, that gives me a weekend. And this is exactly what we're going to use. We will copy this part, come back to data validation. We will enter a custom formula, and the formula would be equal to. Now we don't need to write an if here. We can simply say weekday of the cell, which is B30, comma 2 is less than 6. Let's see what happens. If I put in today, it gives me 27. And if I try to make it to the 28th, it gives me an error telling me that you're not allowed to put in this value, since the value that you're putting as the project delivery date is a weekend, and that is not permitted. Let's look at one more example. Very simple one, but a little tricky if you don't know how to do it. We want to make sure that the user is entering the name as an uppercase. So if I enter Havish like this, it should not allow it. Let's see what we do. So I will insert a formula where we will say that equal to exact, and we will say that the value in B36 has to be the upper of B36. Now, exact is a very interesting function because it ensures that the value that you are checking is exactly the same. The cases sensitivity matters. So it matters if it is uppercase and lowercase. Let's see what happens. So if I put in Havish like this, it doesn't work. Only if I put it in uppercase, it will work. That's how my formula looks. Let me also convert this into uppercase here. Perfect. And this will become a capital B as well. In this example, we want to ensure that a specific word has been mentioned in the remark. So let me call it the remark. So what we would like is that the word performance should be used in the remark. So if I'm the manager and I'm giving a remark to one of my reportees, I want to ensure that the word performance has been included. We go to data validation, select custom, and then the formula here would be equal to find, and we want to find the word performance within the cell E4. So what that does is that if I say the performance was good, it gives me an error. The reason is that performance here has a capital P in it. But if I say showed excellent performance works perfectly. And the final example that we're doing is a mobile number has to be entered. And we would like to make sure that the number starts with either 8 or 9. It should be exactly 10 digits and it should be a number as well. For example, if somebody accidentally enters this, yes, it is starting with a 9. Yes, it is 10 digits, but it is not a number. How do we find that? So we will say, and the left of my cell is equal to either 8 or 9. So the left of E10 is equal to 8, or the left of E10 is equal to 9. That's the first condition. The second condition is that it should be a number. So we can simply say is number. And the third and the final condition is that it should be 10 digits. So the length of E10 should be equal to 10, like this. So it gives me a false right now. If I change it to 2, that still doesn't work. Let me just try to put the 8 and the 9 in a double quote. Yeah, that should work. Right. And if the first number for some reason was a 7, again, it will not work. This is the formula, everyone, that we have to write. So I'm going to copy the entire thing. And we will go to data validation, custom, and we are going to paste the formula here. Let me just check if there's anything we need to change. I think everything is good. And if you notice, it gives me an error. If I change it to 8, works perfectly. Let me put in the formula for this as well. Perfect. So we have done a bunch of different examples, everyone. We have done the employee feedback being at least 10 characters. We have seen how to change the type of error and give a prompt to the user. We have seen how we can ensure at least 5 words have been inputted, that the value for the current year is at least 20% over the previous year, that the date is within 7 days from today, that the project delivery date is not on a weekend, but only on a weekday, ensuring that the name that has been entered is exactly in uppercase. We want to make sure that a string has been inputted. For example, the word performance has been mentioned in my remark. And the mobile number is 10 digits. It's a number format. The first 2 numbers will be either 8 or 9. Let's do a few more examples now. Now here I want to create a list of employees. It's a very common requirement. You have a list of items, a list of employees, a list of training. But if you notice here, certain names might be repeating. Now, if I go to data validation and I enter a list, and in the source, we select all of these names from E2 till E14. Yes, it will work, but you notice that Catherine Murray is coming 2 times. That doesn't look very good. And obviously, you can type the names here if you want, separated by a comma. For example, we can write A, B, C, but then it doesn't make sense. You don't want to do this with a very large number of values. So let me just write A, B, C without a equal to sign, and we get the result. The correct way of doing this would be to first say unique. Now I want to select the unique of the entire column, but that's going to give me that 0 value, which is basically the blank cell that we have. So we can simply do a drop, and we can say drop the first row that is there. So that will give us the unique list. And as you can see, when I add more names, that gets added as well to column G. And now we can go to data validation, and in our list, we will say equal to, I'm going to select G2. That's where the formula has been written, followed by a hash sign. So it picks up that entire array of values. Click on OK, and as you can see, it doesn't seem to be working. Let me just make sure I've done it correctly. Okay, I entered a minus. Let me make it into a equal to, and there you go. We have a unique list, and here's the best part. Tomorrow, if you add any more names, it will get added to the drop-down aspect like this. This is an update to the previous example. Here we want to make sure that the user first selects the department. There are 3 of them: HR, marketing, and finance. And the names that are appearing should only be for that particular department. So for example, if I select HR, we don't want to see people who are in marketing or finance. We just want to see the people who are in HR. So we'll have to do the formula 2 times. So first I'll say uni of column E. Now we don't want the first 2 records. So I'll simply say drop comma 2. We'll do the same thing with column F as well, like this. But this doesn't really solve our purpose, right? The reason is that you might have the same name appearing in 2 departments. For example, a Catherine Murray here and here. Also, you don't really want to find the unique list because we don't have the mapping. What we want to do now is, let's start from the beginning. I will first put a data validation, which is a list, and the source will be equal to h2 hash, which is like this. Next, once the user is selecting, let's say HR, we want to say that equal to filter. So we want to filter the entire column F, but we only want to see those names. That means we only want to see those employees who are working in the HR department. So column E has to be equal to HR, like this. So you notice we have these 6 names that are appearing. And here, if I change it to marketing or to finance, the dependent list changes every time. The rest is simple. Now we can again go back to data validation. We will enter a list, and the list here would be equal to I2 hash, like this. So if you notice, when I select marketing, we only see the guys in marketing. If I select HR, we only see the people in HR. And now let us do our final 2 examples. It's a little more complex, but once you know the formula that you have to write, it's really a copy and paste. Now, what we are trying to do here is to first give a code to each of these employees, but we want to make sure that the same code has not been given twice. For example, if for Aaron Bergman, we are giving a code, let's say 100, we don't want to accidentally assign the code to some other employee as well. So we go to data validation, and the formula we'll write here is equal to count if. So we want to make sure that the code has not been entered at all. So let me first show you the formula here. So we will say equal to count if. What is the range? I'll select the entire column C. And what is the criteria? We will search for C3. And we want to make sure that this is equal to 1. Now, if I copy the formula all the way down and I start giving some codes, let us see what happens. So if I give 100, it's okay. If I give 100 one more time, it doesn't work. It gives me a false. So if you notice, it is not allowing me to give the value 100 one more time, and it is giving me an error in the first one as well, which is a warning to tell me that you have already used this code before, or that you're trying to give the code one more time. So let's copy the formula. Data validation, right? I already have the formula here. So in C3 to C15, we want to make sure that the value C3 is only coming exactly one time. Let's also copy the validation down, and I'll write down the formula here. like this. Now, if you notice how it works is that if I give a code 100, it works. If I give 200 and 300 and 301 and 101, everything works. But the moment I try to give the same code more than one time, if I try to give 100, it gives me an error. Very smart. A slight variation on this is to ensure that a person has attended the training at most 2 times, right? So that means we don't want the person to appear more than twice. If you look at the formula here, again, it's very simple, just like the previous one. So what we are doing here is this time we are locking the first cell and we are keeping the second one open. That means that when I search in H3, I'm only searching in H3. But when I search in H4, I'm searching in H3 and H4 together. Let me explain to you how it works. So if I have written 100, and if I write 100 one more time, that doesn't seem to work. So let me quickly check that. Hold on. Let me just make sure that the formula is coming correctly. So I'll just copy it one more time in data validation. There we go. And it should work this time. So if I give 200, everything is okay. If I give 100 one more time, that again doesn't work. It's very odd. Okay, there seems to be some problem. It is picking the value C. So let me just make sure that the validation has been copied in all the cells. We already know how to do that. And let's see, works perfectly this time. As you can see, I can enter the value 100 twice or the name of the training 2 times, but I cannot enter it more than twice. Now, a typical use case for this would be when you are mapping people for certain trainings and you don't want to have more than 15 people in a specific training. So as you go through the employee list and you keep on putting the training name, you also want to make sure that that training has not been assigned more than 15 people. Like in this case, we cannot have the code 100 coming more than 2 times. Similarly, you don't want more than 2 people to attend that particular training. Of course, you will have to think a little bit about how to use all these features in data validation that we have covered in the examples. But I hope this will help all of you.